What's happening, everybody? We are here with my good friend Harry Jones, aka Harry Runs on all your social media.
Yeah, Harry Runs, that's it.
Yeah, man. How you doing?
Good, man. It's good to see you again. It's been a while.
Good to see you too. Good to see you too. We're here at Base Camp Coffee House.
Yeah, Base Camp Coffee House here in Chiang Mai. It's Thailand's first trail running cafe, and it's a pretty cool place. Good vegan smoothies. So
yeah, man. Right at the base of tons of trails that are in this, I guess it's Doi Sutat Pui National Park.
Yeah.
And you've been on way more trails than I have. You're always out, like, following your Strava, and you're just all over the place doing like these ridiculous runs. Yeah, it's really cool. We've got a good spot here in Chiang Mai for trail running, would you say?
It's perfect, yeah. That's why I've been here for 5 years on and off now.
Yeah.
It's just wicked training location. Yeah, straight from here, at the end of Sutat Road, you can head straight up Pilgrim's Trail, which everyone knows.
Yeah.
But Pilgrim's Trail is really only the start of the mountain.
Yeah.
And there's some incredible trails once you get up high towards Doi Pui Summit on the ridge line, and steep.
Yeah.
Steep, technical. This time of year, we were just talking about it, it's a bit frustrating in the rainy season. It's just a lot of bugs and insects, which are good fun and exciting, but
part of the fun, right?
Slows you down a bit, slows you down, but it's all good.
Definitely. So for a lot of you guys will know Harry, I'm sure, but for some of you guys who don't know him, he is man, you are just absolutely smashing it on the trail running scene internationally, like competing with, some serious names, putting down some crazy performances, man. So yeah, it's been really, really entertaining and just inspiring to watch you over the last couple of years, So definitely check Harry out. He's, making his way up the ranks there on the global trail running scene. And we're just gonna have a little chat, and I'm gonna pick your brain a little bit, and hopefully you guys can gain some insight out of this conversation. So I just want to start off, tell me a bit about where you're coming from. Like, I know you were running as a kid. I don't know the details of that. Like, tell me how you got into running and like what kind of running you started out doing.
Yeah, totally. Well, I'm running for maybe over 14, 15 years now. Started in high school, like a lot of kids do, I guess.
How old are you now?
28 now.
28, okay, we're the same age,
Yeah, 29 this summer.
Yeah.
It just seems crazy myself.
I know, right?
No longer a kid. But yeah, started off in high school. We had a cross-country lesson. PE teacher just kind of sending us off, doing laps of the fields. Never really thought about running before, but always did lots of different sports, as a lot of kids do.
Yeah.
And ended up doing pretty well in the class, and then just kind of felt hooked from that moment, really. Just enjoyed that idea of it just being so pure and so simple, and just the ability to kind of exhaust yourself.
Yeah.
Was a big plus for me, because I've always had the kind of endless energy and not enjoying sitting still, and drove my parents a bit crazy, so I think they were quite happy to support me with my new kind of found love for this.
Get an outlet for that.
Yeah, definitely. So team sports were great, but running was just an easy way just to absolutely give it your all and not have to rely on anyone else for that. So yeah, just kind of ended up continuing with that passion, went down to the local athletics track. Really fortunate to have some good coaches there, and focused my energy into middle distance running, so 1500 meters was my main kind of outlet for that. But yeah, I wasn't like a superstar to start with. I was good, but I just had the energy, I guess, and the drive just to keep turning up and keep putting the training in, and I just enjoyed that process of just, like I said, just being able to exhaust myself and just push hard and work hard and see what came out of it.
And you did see some progress though, obviously.
Oh, totally, yeah, it was good. It was like a steady progression. So on the county level I was doing better, and then across North Wales, which is where I grew up, and then Wales, gone to the Welsh team after a few years, which meant a lot to me.
Wow, yeah.
And then did okay then on some kind of British indoor championships, which were really the kind of height of where I took things in the track. And then really, as I got kind of older then into the kind of junior years before hitting the seniors, kind of lost my way a bit with track running, got a bit frustrated with just how, obviously it became more of a game of tactics then, and then it's always the guy who's got the fastest 400 meters at the end that would win, rather than the pure race that it is as a kid. So yeah, just kind of fell out of love with track racing and got a bit tired of running in circles. and then kind of took to the trails really, and ended up going further and further until today.
So it was a natural progression from the track to the trails. Was there wasn't really a point where you sort of said, I'm going to get away from running? You've been pretty consistent, or would you say?
Yeah, so I never stopped running.
Right.
Always done other things as well as running. So like I said, I was doing other sports. But really I was kind of, I was in university. I got frustrated with just, spending all that time and all that dedication into maybe shaving off a second each year. When you start running down, when you're a kid, you start off with like some good times and you're happy with them, but then suddenly, it's the same for anything, as swimming or triathlon. It's just the more you focus in on that kind of that one discipline, that one distance, it starts becoming 10, 20 second PRs or minutes. It becomes, second each year or nothing. And I kind of got frustrated with that process of giving it your all that focus. Especially when you're in university and everyone's partying all the time. And I was playing in bands as well at the time. I was trying to juggle, playing music and doing a few tours, and then trying to still dedicate myself to this athlete lifestyle. It didn't really mix too well when you're trying to look for those seconds. So I kept running all the way through, but I was lucky as well that my dad always took me to the mountains as a kid. So I was never really racing there as a kid, but then when I got
that connection
there, and then I started searching for something different, and then found mountain running and trail running.
Right. Sounds like the perfect thing, right?
Yeah,
you're
perfect.
Able to combine that, that connection you had with the trails and with being out in nature, and then just using that skill you had from running. So how did that go? Like, what were your first sort of trail races that you did, or was it like shorter trail races at first?
So it was the shorter trail races at first. I'd heard about this ultra trail running stuff, which kind of obviously drew my attention. As I'm sure a lot of people who get into the sport kind of do with, I guess, books like Born to Run or Scott Jurek. It was just when I turned vegan as well, so obviously Scott Jurek is a big name in the kind of vegan running scene, and that really inspired me. So definitely wanted to kind of sign up to the first 100k or 50k I saw, but I knew that probably wasn't the best idea. I did actually do my first races on the trail running out here in Thailand. I signed up to a 50k, and then I actually tried to go straight for the 100k. The race ended up being at 85k in the end, which is a good thing, because I was totally unprepared really to go the whole distance. I thought I trained hard, but now compared to what I do now, it just wasn't hard enough at all. It was tough, as you imagine, in this heat as well. So after that, I kind of thought, I went back to the UK for a while and really kind of knuckled down on thinking about the technique and the downhilling and the technical terrain, and did more of the shorter races in the UK, the fell races, we call them, where it's not the same as typical trail races. You're not kind of running on a guided course the whole way. It's kind of like more of you have to hit these certain peaks or summits as fast as you can. And
whichever you how you do it.
Whichever line you choose on the mountain,
interesting.
Is totally fair play. So it's a really kind of crazy way of racing.
What would you call that kind of a race?
It's called a fell race. So FELL.
Fell race. Okay.
Because you call the mountains in the UK, you would call them fells, in the Lake District and such, where I originated. So it's really exciting. It's really intense, as you can imagine, because you can feel like you're leading a race. Someone could have chosen a faster line than you and just
come out of nowhere.
I've been in races where people have literally kind of scrambled up graded climbs to get to the summit before this, and it's just
so you intense. Really got to do your homework on like the mountain and where you're going and all that.
That's it. The top guys will like recce the course. So that's really a good way to kind of fast track your technical running skills, and really enjoyable, really tough racing.
Cool.
But then after that, kind of ended up really wanting to search within myself what I could achieve on the longer stuff, and start doing more of the ultra stuff.
So what's the difference in the training? Like if somebody's watching and they're used to doing road races or middle distance running or whatever, and they're wanting to get into trail running, longer distance stuff. I mean, are you just going out and running slow for hours on end, or are you throwing in some speed work there as well, or just doing tons of hill repeats? Like how does your training change depending on, I guess, maybe the course that you're looking at or the distance that you're looking at? What advice could you offer somebody who's looking to structure a new training plan to get into this longer style of running?
Yeah, totally. So I mean, it really depends on the course itself. So you can have, as you aware, you can have flat trail races, or flat as in maybe there's only a few thousand meters of climbing over like 50k, whereas you can have a sky race maybe, or really technical mountainous ultra where you've got lots of climbing in 50k, maybe you've got double that. So the training is going to vary between those. But mainly the big difference is to really focus within your training. If you're going from the road to the trail, it's just getting on the trail, just doing those runs on the trail. For sure, taking it easier to start with, understanding that you're not going to hit the same pace that you're going to hit on the road. Maybe you need to start thinking less about your training paces and more about just listening to your own rate of perceived exertion, you would call it. So listening to your body, how it's responding, and how that same effort feels between the two. And just realizing that there's a lot of strength that needs to be built within your body, and balance and technique, and a lot of skills that maybe you don't usually employ on the road, especially if you're living in well-paved, flat area. It takes a lot out of you running on the trails if you're not used to it.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I don't do a lot of trail running, and when I do get on the trails, and if it's got some decent ups and downs and lefts and rights, like man, I feel like just going out for like a 5k on the trails, like you say, your training paces, like you can't like throw those out the window, right? If you're doing lots of elevation and stuff like that, and it's really gonna take it out of your legs if you're not used to it, for sure. So then you mentioned rate of perceived exertion. Do you use heart rate as well? Is that something that you're checking all the time, or like how much are you looking at that?
Yeah, so maybe I'll check in with heart rate at like different points within the year, just to kind of tune up myself alongside what I believe is the rate I'm putting out there. So obviously you want to make sure you're doing like a true aerobic effort at times, keeping rule of thumb, maybe keeping 80% of your training anaerobic, zone 2 kind of level. But of course you would tweak that leading up to a specific event. So if you're trying to get more, if it's a short trail race, obviously you need more higher intensity speed work going in there. But yeah, you need to maybe focus on those downhills if you're new to that as well. But yeah, for myself, I will kind of zone in and out of using a heart rate monitor throughout the year. With the nature of the races as well, I like to not wear a heart rate monitor for like 12 hours at a time in the race when you're already having to carry around a lot of other stuff.
So you won't wear it during the race?
So generally I don't wear in the race, but it's certainly useful to be aware of where you think you are, and understand that your body does have certain different zones and levels that you're trying to train, and make sure you're never exceeding, especially in an ultra race, which obviously the guy who goes off the front really hard might be Jim Walmsley at Western States, who obviously can handle that, but it might be, you've got to pace yourself and run to your own race and pace yourself well, and not hit yourself too hard and burn yourself out early on.
Absolutely. So what are some of the recent races that you've done? Like you've done heaps of races the past couple of years. You've been racing a lot. You've been all over. I know you were in Malaysia and the Philippines recently. So talk me through maybe, I don't know, pick maybe a couple of those races where you felt that maybe it was a really good day or a really bad day. Like what are some things that you've learned recently through maybe your races?
Yeah, definitely. I think something I've learned and had to learn kind of early on, especially out here in Asia, is that the weather is such a controlling factor. The heat is something you really need to prepare for. So hydration and really understanding how your body needs to hydrate specifically for yourself might be different to someone else within these kind of hot, tough, humid conditions. So really thinking about those electrolytes is a really important aspect.
Have you ever done one of those tests, the sweat tests?
I've never done a sweat test. No. I've just kind of obviously been fortunate enough to be training in the environments beforehand to where I'm going to be racing to be able to prepare for it. So, and then obviously learning a lot about your body over the years, you kind of have a good idea of that scope as well. So I would say that's always the most beneficial thing, especially with an ultra race, is if you've got the availability and the time to maybe take a short holiday or a weekend away to train on the course, train in the environment. If you can't get to the course itself that you're going to be preparing for, is a big advantage, and you see a lot of the top guys doing that now, because it's such a, I'm sure it's the same triathlon as well, because it is such an advantage just to know what you're in for mentally as much as physically. And then obviously physically there's benefits that come along with that as well when it comes to adapting to that environment, the altitude or the heat
or the cold,
which is something I struggle with now. So
yeah. I remember watching one of your videos.
Yeah, totally.
Where was that when it was just you were freezing?
That was last year. So that was CCC last year, which is really pretty compared 100K.
Yeah.
I was well trained for it. I felt fantastic leading into it. I've been in Spain, so I've been pretty hot, and I've been at altitude as well, so I had a little bit of cold, but not wet, rain, a bit of sleet on the day, which really was something I was not prepared for. So that kind of slowed the body down a bit. So you have to factor in all that. So this year I'll be going there early, and if it's raining outside and it's cold, I'll be making sure I'm out there training to prepare. But definitely training to conditions. And not being scared to change things up. You have to remember that what's worked for you in the past for some races isn't always going to work for you for the races in the future, and you have to train to your strengths but really focus on your weaknesses sometimes, and they might represent themselves as injuries. If you're too late with that, or if you're hopefully staying ahead of that curve, you can keep yourself nice and strong in the dynamic of different training to get there.
Very cool, very cool. So talking about preparing for races and coming up with training plans and stuff, obviously it's very helpful to have a coach, and you're getting into coaching, or you've been coaching for...
I've been coaching for a few years now.
So I guess that's a journey unto itself, is learning how to coach people into events, so definitely hit Harry up if you're looking for a coach, because I'm sure you're a fantastic coach.
I like to think so.
And but maybe what are some things that through your coaching you've noticed, like maybe it's certain things, myths that people believe, or just common misperceptions about how they should be training, or maybe even things that you see other coaches or other people on YouTube or whatever telling people, like what's maybe maybe a couple things that people tend to think about how they should be training, they're not necessarily the case.
I think through my experience anyway, a lot of people just have to take a step back sometimes and look at the bigger picture of what their goals are and what's realistic with the time that they have, and keeping a good balance of their overall lifestyle, whether that's work, the kids, the family, making sure that it's staying in balance and dividing your energy enough between all those things to make sure you're not wearing yourself out on either one of those. I'm sure we're all guilty of that. I know that I'm guilty of that, and I don't even have kids and live quite a simple lifestyle as I can. You have to make sure that you're not pushing it too hard in any one of those aspects, and I think a lot of people have big expectations, or maybe the exact opposite of that. People don't expect enough of themselves with the time that they do have, or don't realize they have a lot more time than they have to actually train, and sometimes it just comes down to scheduling. And if you are really on top of your schedule and being organized and motivated for the task that you have, or the goal that you want to achieve, you can really achieve some fantastic things with the time that you do have. And that's always what's the most rewarding thing about running, is that compared to cycling or a lot of these other sports, it doesn't have to be that time consuming to get a good running workout in, which is very beneficial and can really set you in the right path.
For sure. Yeah, I would agree. I think there's a lot of people out there who are maybe doing too much training, maybe too much training too soon. And then there's other people who maybe they could be doing a lot more. They're making excuses for not doing this workout or that workout, and it's like, oh, it's raining today, should I still go for a run? It's like,
of course you should.
So that's cool, man. I think that a lot of people can really benefit from having a coach, not only for that specific advice on like what sessions you should be doing, but also just having that accountability, that like somebody who's watching your Strava or your Training Peaks or whatever, and is going to be keeping an eye on you. And if you miss that workout, it's going to be like, hey, what happened? Like, where'd that workout go?
Accountability is the biggest part for sure, and it's almost just like. For me now, I always try and get to the routine of if I've got a big goal, just telling someone about it, telling as many people like this is what I want to do, this is what I want to achieve, and telling my YouTube guys on YouTube, like this is what we're going for, guys. Yeah, because then the accountability is there, and you've got to sit down, you've got to focus on that, and you can't just let it drift away as an idea that originally you had, and then you can kind of get away pretending that, oh, it's just an idea, it wasn't like a fixed goal.
Yeah, and that's really cool about your YouTube channel as well, is like if you watch Harry on YouTube, you'll see that, you know, you're putting out training videos, logging your weekly training. I think now you're going to be doing weekly
that's the
next race, but you've done it before, right?
Yeah, I've done it before.
For CCC, was it? Or the 12 weeks, you know, you check in every week, talk about your training, you know, you talk about upcoming races and stuff like that. So it's really, really cool to sort of follow along and like see how that's all progressing. So yeah, it's really, you can really gain a lot from those videos. So check those out, go back and watch them again. And yeah, I think that it's a great thing to have that accountability for sure. And for you, do you have a coach or are you self-coached?
Self-coached, yeah. So really, I rely on my accountability from, like I said, just spreading the word of what I'm hoping to do, what my goals are. And thanks to kind of you guys that watch my YouTube, it really means a lot. It does really help me when people, I know people are watching and I'm waiting for that video. Because I want to perform, I want to get the most out of myself, and I know that if they're checking up on me or they're waiting for that video, then I got no excuses, especially if I'm putting the facts and the figure and the Strava out there. They want to see results too.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I guess for the coaching thing, it's like, you know, you can go watch all the videos on YouTube and get all the, you know, the key sessions to do and whatever, but if you don't have somebody who's experienced, you know, to like check in with like where you're at and like make something that's appropriate for you, like it's just not going to be the best thing for you, right? Because there's tons of great information out there on YouTube, but is it all applicable to everyone necessarily? Not really, right? Like you need somebody who's able to sort of, you know, bring it to your level and make it appropriate for you, right?
That's it, and that's always the most important thing, is just training to where you're at right now, not to where your goal is. Obviously, you want to map yourself towards your goal, and that might mean increasing your training paces over time, but it has to be applicable to where you're at on that day, and listening to your body on that day. And some days, that's really accepting that some days you're going to feel slow and you're going to feel useless, and that's cool, you know, that's part of the training process sometimes.
How do you know where to draw that line though, between maybe, you know, getting overtrained and feeling like too fatigued? Like where do you, any advice on, because I mean it can happen, man. If you're training for 100K races and you're putting it, like if you look at the amount of Ks that this guy's running a week, like, you know, how do you draw that line between, you know, maybe I'm overtraining, I'm feeling a bit too fatigued, or maybe this is like, you know, what I should be feeling now? Like what's your approach for that?
It's difficult, and like having a coach is good for that, because you've got someone to discuss that aspect with, someone who's got the experience of what those emotions or physical feelings, because emotions come into it a lot as well, I feel, and if you're not used to feeling, you know, exhausted and tired, maybe that's why you're grouchy on that day, or maybe that's why some things are feeling a bit tougher or more overwhelming than usual. But I think, you know, overtraining in itself for most people is quite hard to do, you know, to truly overtrain when you're thinking about time constraints with family, or if people are working a typical 9-to-5 job, to actually have the time to overtrain, you know, as like a chronic overtraining thing, it's super hard to do, I would say, really.
Could be underslept though.
But that's it, that's where I'm going, So if you're not taking care of yourself in terms of your diet, your sleeping, or if you're relying too much on stimulants, you know, like coffee, which a lot of people do, then sure, you can really push yourself too far and then obviously if you're relying on those things, you're not truly able to listen to how your body is truly reacting to the stress that you're putting on it, because you're fooling it every single day. So you need to keep a good balance with all that aspect as well.
That's really interesting. You know, that's a great point, because most people, it's probably going to be really, really hard for them to overtrain per se, but very easy for them to, you know, under rest or take it and undernourish yourself. So maybe now's a good time to talk about, you know, diet. All right, so the camera just paused, but that's a good place for it to pause. So I'd like to talk about diet, lifestyle, you know, that kind of territory, taking care of yourself. I know that you are a fellow vegan athlete, and you've been vegan for how long now? A few years?
About 5 years.
5 years. So you were already an athlete when you went vegan. Unlike me, I wasn't. Well, I mean, when I was a kid, I was into sports and stuff, but I got out of all that. I was living a totally unhealthy, inactive lifestyle, and then went vegan, and then got like a resurgence of all this energy to do some fitness. But it sounds like you were active all the way through and made that transition while being an athlete. So
yeah,
how did that go? What was your experience with that?
I mean, food was always something I was really interested in. When I was 18, I had glandular fever, and a big connection then for me in terms of the recovery was, after speaking to a sports doctor friend of mine, was searching out more fruits, getting that vitamin C up, getting nutrients in, more salads. So from that point, it was always something that was on my mind. Not necessarily veganism, because back then, I know it's an excuse, there obviously were vegan people around, but
not as much.
It wasn't as talked about as much, and I think vegetarian was common, but it wasn't. I feel like vegetarianism to me then wasn't necessarily about the nutritional aspect of it. It was obviously more about the connection with the animals, which until you really think about, it's something maybe that you don't consider. But food as like a health source and training was something I always had in mind, and considered that I was eating healthy at the time. So yeah, it was always something that was kind of underlying there for me. Talking about my journey to veganism.
And I mean, I guess you're already eating healthy, so it's not like you were going from totally junk diet to vegan, and then you had this massive shift. I guess it was more just, so you're already eating.
I was building connection with the power of food, I guess. To help with the performance. In university, that was something that kind of led me down that route. So I studied sports biomedicine and nutrition because I wanted to be the best athlete I could be. So learning about the biochemistry, the training, the biology, the physiology, and of course the nutrition was a big part then for me as well. So I was just taking the advice that I was given then, which wasn't necessarily a vegan diet,
but heavy plants.
But definitely I was quite lucky and fortunate to have the lecturers that were pushing those kind of ideas on me, that obviously vegetables and just the simple stuff that it is, because it's not complicated. And then my girlfriend Louise was vegetarian when we kind of met, and then that kind of changed my shift towards the ethical side of things, I guess. Making that change then to vegetarianism was quite a big jump, especially when you're thinking about yourself as an athlete, and that you have to perform and you have to have the strength and
the
energy and the protein. And like I said, it was a big jump, but that was more of an emotional jump, I guess, rather than a physical one, because as soon as I made that switch, you realise it's no big deal, and it kind of just happened over time. I just realised, hey, I haven't eaten chicken for a few weeks now, because you kind of rule out the red meats and the chicken, fish, whatever it was. And,
so it was more of a slow transition.
It was a slow transition for me. I wasn't an overnight kind of guy. And then it was the same thing with veganism. I cut out the milk, because I started thinking about how cows are treated, and then thought, eggs is kind of the same thing, and honey, and then I realized along the whole those processes I only felt better, only felt more energy and lighter. Not necessarily like that certainly happened with physique over time as I started doing more running and ultra running, which is going to happen, but the strength was still there, if not better than ever, and the recovery was just super quick, and it was just easy once you kind of get your head around it and figure out that there's not a lot of limiting factors to being vegan at all.
There's tons of food out there that you can eat.
It was such a natural progression then. So really rewarding process for me.
Yeah, for me, I remember when I got into it, it was Dan the Man, the Life Regenerator. I was watching a lot of him, and I started eating all these green juices and stuff, and like I just wasn't eating enough calories, because I think that's the main mistake that people will make when they go vegan, is they won't eat enough. They'll think I can eat a salad and some fruit, and like they're not eating extreme amounts of these things. And if you go from eating a standard diet at 3,000 calories a day to a vegan diet at 1,000 calories a day, of course you're going to feel low energy, right? So for me, I know I lost, even though I wasn't doing fitness or anything, but I definitely lost a lot of weight, probably too much weight at the beginning, and then finally found people like Harley, Durian Ryder, and other athletes out there who were eating more food, and once I started doing that, I felt like way better. I mean, I felt better initially anyways, even though I was under eating, because you're cleaning yourself out. But it gets to a point where it's like, I'm getting a little bit skinny, and then so I don't know if you didn't. Did you see much in terms of that? In terms of like you needing to eat more volume, or? Yeah,
I think I guess like I said, because I kind of went to vegetarianism before veganism. So I think even when the main thing is cutting out the meat there. So when you cut out the meat, then obviously that's a big nutritionally dense food,
calorically dense,
but not in the right way necessarily. And so as soon as you cut that out, then certainly I started noticing, hey man, wow, I'm kind of
hungry,
doubling up my plate here. But I think once you kind of get over that factor that you can eat more volume and start realizing, hey, you're not going to pile the pounds on, quite the opposite. You're going to get more lean maybe and feel more energy and feel better for it and feel healthier for it. Then it's great. I really enjoyed that factor because I've always been a little bit greedy maybe and
like to eat.
Everyone
likes to eat.
Like to eat, but knowing then that you're eating the good stuff, it's brilliant.
For sure. It's a big thing now. Like we were talking before about like all these, the trail running Facebook groups and stuff. Like there's a lot of talk about veganism, plant-based diets. And then on the other hand, there's also all this talk about the low carb ketogenic diets. And I guess that's probably, I mean, we could go into that.
That's a big debate.
That's a big debate. But I mean, just for the people who are, because I mean, obviously, from an ethical standpoint, there's a lot of people who are looking to go vegan, and also from a health standpoint too. So, is there any specific advice that you give to somebody out there who's into trail running or into athletics at all, and they wanted to go vegan? Like anything that you'd say to them?
Totally. I mean, if you're into trail running, then it's obviously a perfect combination to match that. If you're into trail running, you obviously care about the environment, you care about the trails,
right?
And even if you aren't necessarily majorly connected to animals, or ever spend much time maybe with like the animals that you would eat, like cows or sheep or goats, or that was a big thing for me. I spent some time in India, like an animal rescue center, and that's really I think where I made that connection with the animals.
Face to face.
Because no one does. If you live in the city, like when do you ever hang out with cows?
You completely disconnected.
So that was a big thing for me that made the switch. But I mean, environmentally, there's a lot of benefits to eating vegan. There's a lot of great information out there, a lot of great documentaries available on Netflix. And,
Cowspiracy for the environment. Check out Cowspiracy if you want to know why going vegan is important for the environment.
If you're into trail running, you care about the environment, you're somewhat maybe then of a conservationist when it comes to the mountains and wild spaces, then it's really something to consider there. But when it comes to performance, I'm not the only athlete that's achieving well in this. As I said, Scott Jurek was someone that really influenced me in the beginning, Sage Canaday, many more. Lucy Bartholomew, if you haven't heard of her. Have you heard of Lucy Bartholomew?
I haven't.
You should check her out, man. She's a vegan Australian athlete. She just came third in Western States 100 miler.
Wow.
And she's 22 years old. That was her first 100-mile race.
22?
Yeah, and she smashed it. So there's a lot of amazing vegan runners and influencers right now coming out there, and
for sure,
definitely worth checking out because they're taking over. So trail running is just a perfect combination for the diet, I think, and it's definitely worth checking out.
Fantastic. Well, I think we've given people lots to think about. Cool. Thanks for your time, Harry.
Really
appreciate it,
man. It's good to catch up.
Check Harry out. Harry runs on YouTube, Instagram, anywhere else?
YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, harryruns.com. That's it for me.
Cool. Sweet. Post questions, comments. Questions, comments down below. Check out his videos, and peace out. We'll see you guys next time.
See you guys.